What is up, guys? EJ here, back with another video, and today it's going to be my movie collection for 2016 and the Western section. So let's get started. So up first we have 310 to Yuma from 2007. Yeah, good film directed by James Mangold with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Ben Foster was really good in this movie, I remember. Yeah, good film. I haven't seen the original though. Up next we have the original The Alamo from 1960, a film that John Wayne directed, who of course stars in the movie with Richard Widmark, Lawrence Harvey, and Richard Boone. And I also got The Alamo remake from 2004. Yeah, good remake, solid remake with Dennis Quaid, Billy Bob Thornton, Jason Patric, and Patrick Wilson. Up next we have American Outlaws from 2001. Not a great movie with Colin Farrell, Scott Conn, Ali Larter. I did like Timothy Dalton in this movie, but it's not a great Western, that's for sure. Up next we have Appaloosa from 2008. Yeah, underrated Western that Ed Harris co-directed, who stars in the movie alongside Viggo Mortensen, Renee Zellweger, and Jeremy Irons. Up next we have The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, one of the longest titles in my collection. Yeah, really good film though, from 2007 with Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. Up next we have Bend of the River from 1952 with Jimmy Stewart, Julia Adams, and Rock Hudson. Up next we have Mel Brooks' classic, Blazing Saddles, of course, from 1974, 30th anniversary special edition. Yeah, Gene Wilder, of course, just brilliant, hilarious movie. Up next we have Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, my all-time favorite Western from 1969, directed by George Roy Hill. Ultimate Collector's Edition, fantastic performances by Paul Newman and Robert Redford, of course. Love that movie. Up next we have Cat Ballou from 1965 with Lee Marvin and Jane Fonda, special edition. Up next we have Cimarron from 1931, one of the early movies to win Best Picture in the 1930s. Up next we have The Cowboys from 1972 with John Wayne. Yeah, fun film, part of the John Wayne Collection Deluxe Edition. Good movie directed by Mark Rydell. Up next on Blu-ray we have Cowboys versus Aliens from 2011. Yeah, directed by Jon Favreau. Not a great film, but I enjoyed it. With Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde. It had some good moments, I thought. Up next we have Dances with Wolves, special edition, classic, of course, Oscar-winning film directed by Kevin Costner, who of course stars in the movie. Yeah, I remember when I first saw this back in 1990 when it came out. I was only 12 at the time. I was blown away by it. Yeah, Graham Greene, really good in the film, alongside Mary McDonnell as well. Just a fantastic movie. I know a lot of people think Goodfellas should have won, and that's probably true, but Dances with Wolves is still a fantastic Western, fantastic movie. Up next we have Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained from 2012. Yeah, great fun Western with Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz, fantastic. Leo DiCaprio, Kerry Washington, and Samuel L. Jackson. Up next we have El Dorado from 1967. Yeah, with John Wayne and Robert Mitchum. Yeah, good film. Up next we have Sergio Leone's trilogy with Clint Eastwood, A Fistful of Dollars from 1964. Of course, got the 2-disc collector's sets for a few dollars more from 1965. And the best of the bunch, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from 1966. Fantastic movie. Great score, of course. Just a great Western, those Sergio Leone films. Up next we have Fort Apache from 1948, a great film directed by John Ford with John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Shirley Temple, and Pedro Armendariz. Not an easy name to say. Up next we have Hang 'em High from 1968, I believe, with Clint Eastwood. Up next we've got High Noon from 1952, fantastic western, one of my favorites, collector's edition, directed by Fred Zinnemann with Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly. Just a fantastic movie. Great music as well from that film. Up next we have High Plains Drifter from 1973. Yeah, great film with Clint Eastwood, of course. Up next we have Hondo from 1953 with John Wayne, of course, part of the John Wayne collection. Another good John Wayne western. Up next we have How the West Was Won from 1962, 3-disc special edition. Yeah, really good film. Great all-star cast. Okay, up next we have Jeremiah Johnson from 1971, film directed by Sidney Pollack with Robert Redford, of course. Up next on Blu-ray we have The Lone Ranger from 2012, directed by Gore Verbinski, with Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp. Yeah, didn't love this movie. I thought the tone was very off for a Disney movie, but it has some good moments. I like the ending, especially. But yeah, I didn't love The Lone Ranger. Alright, up next we have The Magnificent Seven from 1960, yep. Directed by John Sturges. A fantastic movie, of course, basically a remake of The Seven Samurai with Yul Brynner, Eli Wallach, Steve McQueen, and of course the new Magnificent Seven just came out a couple weeks ago, which I haven't seen yet, but yeah, if you've seen the new one, let me know how that is. I'm sure I'll probably watch it and enjoy it on some level. Alright, up next we have The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance from 1962. Great film directed by John Ford with Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne. Up next we have Maverick from 1994. Yeah, fun western directed by Richard Donner with Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. Oh, these are a little tight. Up next we have McCabe and Mrs. Miller from 1971. Great film directed by Robert Altman with Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. Yeah, this is coming out on Criterion Collection soon, or it already is, so I'll probably upgrade this edition in the November sale. So actually I'm going to leave that out for now. Let's have a little bit more room to operate. Anyway, up next we have The Missing from 2003. Really good film directed by Ron Howard with Cate Blanchett and Tommy Lee Jones. Alright, up next we have My Darling Clementine from 1946. Great movie with Henry Fonda. Again, directed by John Ford. Of course, a lot of John Ford in this section. Up next we have Ned Kelly from 2004. Yeah, good solid western set in Australia with Heath Ledger, Orlando Bloom, Naomi Watts, and Jeffrey Rush. I enjoyed that movie. Up next we have Once Upon a Time in the West. Great Sergio Leone film, of course, with Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, Jason Robards, Claudia Cardinale. Yeah, one of Leone's best. Up next we have Open Range from 2003. Yeah, really underrated film that Kevin Costner directed from 2003, who of course he stars in the movie alongside Robert Duvall and Annette Bening. I like that film a lot. Really good ending to that movie. Up next we have The Outlaw Josie Wales, Clint Eastwood classic from 1976, which he directed and of course stars in. Up next we have The Oxbow Incident from 1943, another great western starring Henry Fonda, film directed by William Wellman. Up next we have Pale Rider from 1985, again directed by Clint Eastwood, who of course stars in the movie. Yeah, I remember when I first saw this when I was a kid. The beginning, like, always shocked me when the guy gets shot like a dozen times in the middle of the street. Alright, up next we have Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. A great film directed by Sam Peckinpah with James Coburn, Chris Christopherson, and Bob Dylan from 1973. Up next we have The Proposition. Yeah, another great film directed by John Hillcoat. Aussie Western with Guy Pearce, Ray Winstone, Danny Houston, John Hurt, David Wenham, and Emily Watson from 2005, that movie. Alright, moving on down. Up next we have The Quick and the Dead from 1995. Yeah, fun Western. I know Scott Cineram is a big fan of this movie, directed by Sam Raimi. Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, and Leo DiCaprio. Yeah, good fun movie, The Quick and the Dead. Alright, up next we have Ride the High Country from 1962, another great film directed by Sam Peckinpah with Randolph Scott and Joel McCrea. Up next we have Rio Bravo from 1959, great western directed by Howard Hawks with John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson to this special edition. Up next we have John Ford's Rio Grande from 1950 with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. Again, another variation of the John Wayne collection. There's like a lot of different John Wayne collection DVDs I have. Another John Wayne collection, Rio Lobo from 1970. Yeah, really good, underrated movie. Again, directed by Howard Hawks. Alright, up next we have Seraphim Falls from 2007. Yeah, good movie with Liam Neeson and Pierce Brosnan. I like this movie a lot. Seen it a couple times now. Did a review for it for the Movie Reviewers 100 from 2007. Angelica Houston's in the movie as well. Directed by David Von Anken. Next we have The Searchers, just a classic from 1956. One of the best westerns of all time. Another John Wayne, John Ford movie. Alright, up next we have Shane from 1953. Great western directed by George Stevens with Alan Ladd, Gene Arthur, and Van Heflin. Up next we have Shanghai Noon from 2000. Yeah, fun movie with Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson, and Lucy Liu. Also have Shanghai Nights in my action section. And I believe they're coming out with a third one, I heard. So I'll probably watch that as well. Up next we have She Wore a Yellow Ribbon from 1949, I believe. Another great John Ford, John Wayne western. Yeah, really good film, these. Or this, sorry. Up next we have Shenandoah, Jimmy Stewart western from 1965. Yeah, good film, that one. Up next we have The Shootist, the last movie that John Wayne starred in, or at least the last western I think he made, from 1976 with Lauren Bacall. Yeah, good film. I've always liked this movie. Up next we have Silverado from 1985. Yeah, really good film directed by Lawrence Kasdan with a really good cast: Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, Rosanna Arquette, John Cleese, Kevin Costner, Brian Dennehy, Danny Glover, Jeff Goldblum, and Linda Hunt. Up next we have The Sons of Katie Elder from 1965, another John Wayne collection film with John Wayne and Dean Martin. Up next we have Stagecoach from 1939, my all-time favorite John Wayne film, John Ford as well. Yeah, just a classic, great film, one of my favorite westerns, to this special edition with Claire Trevor as well. I also have the Criterion Collection edition of that movie. Up next we have Tombstone from 1993, a great film, of course, directed by George B. Cosmatos with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. Up next we have the original True Grit from 1969, special collector's edition with John Wayne, Kim Darby, and Glenn Campbell. And of course I got the Coen Brothers remake from 2010 on Blu-ray. Fantastic remake with Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, and Haley Steinfeld, who was fantastic in this movie. Yeah, I like the remake even more than the original when it comes to True Grit. Alright, up next we have Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's Oscar-winning masterpiece, of course, from 1992, one of my favorite westerns. Clint Eastwood, fantastic. Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, and Richard Harris. Just a great film. Up next we have The Wild Bunch from 1969. Another great Sam Peckinpah western with William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan. Yeah, Ben Johnson, just a great film. Up next we have Winchester 73 from 1950. Another good Jimmy Stewart western with Shelley Winters. Up next we have Wyatt Earp from 1994. Of course, followed Tombstone, basically the same story. This film directed by Lawrence Kasdan with Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid, and Gene Hackman. Good film as well. But I've always liked Tombstone a little bit more. And last but not least, we have to finish with Young Guns from 1988. Of course, the Brat Pack Western with Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, and Casey Siemaszko. So that is my Western collection. Up next will be my Criterion collection, which I'm probably going to break up into 3 parts. So thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see you.